Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 3, Episode 13.
Or Episode 59 if you're counting.
I think. Right?
Yes.
Okay, because I updated that without asking you what episode it was.
No, you had it right this time.
Phew, okay.
You're doing better.
Yes, we're late again this week for similar reasons to last week, on top of new reasons, like you not necessarily getting out of work quite with enough time.
I
But that's
can't
not
help
your
it.
fault.
Yeah.
Not your fault.
As well as the giant jitter problem that we're having.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was last week. And for some reason this week, like, Twitch has had, these last 2 weeks, has had a really bad problem with server connectivity.
Go figure.
And this time I just didn't even have a good list of servers to choose from. They all had bad jitter, unlike last week, where at least one or two had good jitter. So I'm on what still appears to be kind of a crappy server to be connected to. So I want to let you know if it cuts out, we're probably going to keep going, because the audio is still recording.
Yeah, we're at least doing audio recording at the same time, so one way or another, this episode will get out there.
So I want to draw your attention really quickly to this image you see in our corner here for Patreon.
Yeah, right about here-ish.
I have no idea if you're, like, hitting it correctly over here.
I'm pretty sure I did.
That logo, of course, is to my Patreon page, where subscribers are getting really cool things out of me just for subscribing to my videos. And it's not just a means of donation, it's you're going to have access to videos before anybody else does, you're going to have access to videos that nobody else gets to see, and then if you feel like you can contribute enough, then you get to request a particular review out of me. I do want to thank a certain number of Patreon contributors right now who contributed at the $10 or more level. There's Luis, Oliver, Sean, another Sean, and Alex. I want to thank you guys very, very much. If you do end up contributing, if you're a new contributor, come next week, I'll be reading your names out loud as well. Also, this is going to be the first episode of Beyond the Black Rims where I am applying it directly to Patreon. So, immediately after this show is over, I'm getting it set up so that anyone who is a subscriber gets to see it immediately after the show is over. You're not going to be able to watch it again here through Twitch, and then 24 hours later, then everybody else on YouTube is going to be able to watch it, but all of my patrons get to see it first after the show is over. So, I think that's pretty cool. And
I would say so.
And we're just about done with editing our Guyver review as well, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, so we can talk about it this week.
Yeah, now we can talk about it. Because
hey guys, we got Guyver review coming out. It's gonna be great.
It might end up being in 2 parts, because I have to confess it's really kind of long, because we're comparing all these different pieces of Guyver media.
When we were recording it, I was timing us, on a give or take basis of, giving so much space for clips and things like that. The first read-through we did, it came out to about 45, 50 minutes just reading the dang thing.
But then again, that's big blocks of empty space of us, like, taking big old pauses, like, how do we want to read this? So,
right.
There you go. So that's kind of what's been going on a personal level this week.
Right.
So...
But it's not all work. There's time for fun things, like... Oh, I don't know, Mario Kart now being out, and us having a chance to play, and now...
It's been pretty fun.
And now I might just have to give in and get that Wii U.
Which is kind of funny.
I didn't think I was going to do it, because I was holding out for that PS4, and then we end up playing Mario Kart at a friend's house this week, and this is the first Mario Kart ever where I feel like I have a chance.
Well, that's really saying something, because you looked pretty miserable for the first half of time that we were playing.
Well, yeah, but partly that was because there were only so many carts available to us, and after a while of playing through, he finally, or rather, all of us unlocked enough carts to where I found my particular cart, my wheels, my glider, to where I could finally feel like I could compete. And that's the thing, like, Mario Kart, Mario Party, I suck at those games, or rather, I have the worst luck at those games.
Yeah, nobody is supposed to be good at Mario Party. you're
Well, yeah, but some people are luckier than others.
that's the thing about all of these Mario games that you don't seem to understand. Like, you get so mad, but the thing is, it is a lot like children's board games in that it is mostly random, especially when you're talking about in Mario Kart 8 you're getting item blocks, and it's partially determined by your place in the race, but at the same time it's random. Like, come on, yeah, you're in first and then you're gonna get hit by a blue shell. Like, that's just kind of to be expected.
I don't know. You mean there's certain cases where you can get out of that if you see the blue shell coming, because you can push the one button that lets you see behind you. If you see it coming and you've got your shell, you could set it off behind you and you don't even have to worry about your blue shell.
Well, blue shell, I don't know that stops a blue shell.
I'm pretty sure it could stop blue shell.
No, I actually
I'm
don't.
1000% sure it could stop blue shell.
Okay, you clearly don't know anything. You also didn't know anything about drifting. So
I've never known. See, that's part of why I suck.
And drifting has been around in several iterations of Mario Kart.
I mean, we've made this clear before. I am not the gamer between the two of us. I game some.
No, you are not.
I'm the one having to ask, how do I fart start again every time? Like, yeah, I'll pick it up, but I don't inherently know these things.
Well, I suppose that says something when you're not a gamer, but you want to get a Wii U for Mario Kart.
Yeah, because it was fun after a while.
After a while, thank God, because you were starting to scare me.
But it's not scary anymore.
No, it's not scary anymore.
No,
now
you want to talk about scary? People have seen it now. The scariest thing in Mario Kart isn't so much, oh, whether you're better than this guy or if I'm going to get knocked off Rainbow Road. Okay, so apparently Luigi found out that we were talking crap about him in the year of Luigi sucking, so he's taken it upon himself as a sprite to have the scariest face in Mario Kart possible. And now you see these videos out there, these compilations of slow-mo hits, basically like mafia hits is almost what it looks like. You know, you're driving by, there's Peach in her cart, and here comes Luigi. And he just drives
horrible death glares. Man.
And I almost think they did that on purpose.
Oh, I'm sure they did, because I'm sure Nintendo is equally as pissed about, oh, you didn't like Year of Luigi, huh?
Every time I see it, it's like, whose year is it now? And then he just drives away angry. Luigi in Drive Angry replaced Nicolas Cage. Made a much better movie that way.
So I think we should talk about what our major stories are for this week, and then move on to some follow-up segments and stuff. So coming up here in a little bit, we do have a somewhat sad-ish story about a couple of girls who thought that they would do something in the name of the Slenderman and injure another one of their friends quite badly. And we want to discuss what that means culturally, as far as internet culture is concerned, and what that's going to make people think of Slenderman and other pieces of media.
Our second story is going to be a lot of updates this week having to do with the filming of Star Wars Episode 7. We're going to talk about the new directors on the spin-off movies, the photos that have been leaked from the set, and a little bit of new casting.
And finally, we're doing an E3 preview, at least a little bit of hype for E3 coming up this following week, really just a few days away now.
Right.
Really excited about some of the things coming up, and we hope you guys are too, and there's going to be a lot to talk about, so yes.
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 Follow-ups?
What follow-ups do we have,
We
Josh?
got a couple. Okay.
Good.
So we were saying hopefully by this time next week, which is now this week, that we would be able to tell you guys who officially will be taking over the director's chair for Ant-Man. Unfortunately, we can't. They still haven't decided.
They narrowed it down a little bit, but
yes.
Still don't know.
They narrowed it down to Adam McKay, who has since dropped out of the running, and I say thankfully because he was only, good for comedies. And then the two other directors was one guy who did The Other Guys, and the other guy, their names escape me at the moment, and the other guy who's done Zombieland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, far as I know, the Zombieland director is currently, as far as I've been told, out of the running on the basis of the next follow-up that I wanted to bring up, which is that Ghostbusters 3 is looking to have him direct that, the guy who directed Zombieland. And I'm kind of thinking, well, he was probably the best choice, because he directed that and Gangster Squad. So that's a little bit of, you can do action and then horror with a little bit of comedy, so I could get why they would want him to do either one.
It's a decent enough mix.
Yeah, it's a decent enough mix. Which tells you what kind of direction they want to take Ant-Man in if they're still very steeped in comedy directors. Meaning they're still probably very highly influenced by the script that Edgar Wright had initially.
I hope that's true, but...
But even then, that just says how much he was in that if they can't separate that from the project. As such, speaking of Ghostbusters, this August 29th, Ghostbusters, the original movie, is getting a re-release in theaters for a limited time.
Oh, I didn't know about that. You didn't tell me about that before now.
It was a surprise.
Oh, thank you for telling me.
So yeah, Ghostbusters is coming back to theaters this August. If you guys have a chance, if you've never seen it on the screen, go ahead, bring some friends, bring your proton packs, make your own homemade ecto cooler. But
I'd be
make
concerned
sure
about bringing proton packs into a movie theater. Like, I'm just saying, I don't think they'll let you.
they could maybe if they're cool. Like if they're like the Draft House, they're cool with it.
I'm just saying, I think it looks too gun-like, and they're not gonna.
Proton packs don't look like guns. They look.
Cops
If
are
you're gonna get it
trained
wrong-
to shoot you in the kneecap, whether or not it looks like a real gun.
Cops will shoot no matter what nowadays, and we've got enough stories
See?
to prove that.
So we don't.
No,
need
let's
to
get it right.
influence them
Proton
with a
packs look
proton
like
pack.
proton packs look like
Shut
a
up,
bomb.
Josh!
They look like
Shut
bombs
up,
stuck to your
Josh!
bag. You want a piece of this? You want a piece of this? You want to go? You want to go right now? And scene. So yes, if you guys have a chance, please go and check that out. Another piece of update, which kind of has to do with the E3 announcements later, Batman Arkham Knight, which was supposed to come out in October, I believe, got pushed back to next year.
That's a pretty big pushback.
Yeah, I believe until February. That's a couple of months.
Yeah.
You know, last time, what was it, that we had a delay like that was with Watch Dogs. Got pushed back about that amount of time.
Yeah, but it wasn't like... Well, yeah, I'd say it's approximately equivalent.
It's approximately the same thing. There's going to be more news on that at E3, from what we're told. It was kind of funny, though, the way that they went about telling people about this, because they put out this really short, about a minute-long clip of what the Batmobile can do now, which basically has a battle mode, which means it splits open in the front, it's got a Gatling gun on the back, and missiles, and really big turrets popping out of the top. And I like what one comment on the internet said of the people there at WB Games thinking about it. Hey, what's that one thing Batman swears never to use?
Guns?
No, that wasn't it. Was it spears?
More guns?
No, I don't know. No, that wasn't it either. So he doesn't have a problem with guns, right?
I'm pretty sure it was guns.
Yeah, whatever. Throw him on the Batmobile. It'll be great.
Alright, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Batman uses excessive firepower, you're kind of forgetting a little kind of important thing about the character there. But, that's up to them whether or not they want to do that. And another piece of news that we found out just maybe a few hours before the show tonight, we finally got our first look at Sailor Moon Crystal.
Yay!
About a minute and a half trailer where we can finally hear the original voice actors for Usagi there, see a little bit of the motion for Luna and Usagi and a couple of the other Sailor Scouts.
Still not entirely sure how I feel about that art design. I think it's a little too gangly for my preferences.
It's very clamp. It looks even more clamp in motion.
But it didn't mean that when I watched it, I didn't, start to tear up a little bit.
Well, it didn't hit me until she said her catchphrase.
Yeah, that and, it's still true to what it's supposed to be. You can tell right down to Osho Kyo. Every single movement was correct. So, yes. It's gonna be okay. I promise it's gonna be okay.
I hope so.
I don't know what that intro song was, because I thought we were getting another version of Moonlight Densetsu.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I guess not. We got something new.
With me. It's okay. It's still gonna be good. Whatever.
All right.
It wasn't really enough to talk about that and make it into a full story.
But it was worth mentioning that it's out there, and now people can satiate themselves with just a little bit of new animation that'll hold them rabid until July. And then one other piece of news was that I think we talked a little bit about the Warcraft movie that they're filming. Ben Foster, one of the actors in the movie, who you might know from several movies, talked about what character he's playing, and he's playing a character who's a sorcerer named Am I pronouncing this right? Mediv.
Mediv.
Which tells you a little bit about what that movie is going to entail.
Well, yeah, because it could. Everything I had heard said that it was going to be a World of Warcraft movie up until now, and now I'm not entirely sure from that title, unless.
Well, it says the movie is just Warcraft.
Okay, because he appears at least in Warcraft 3, but, this is a character that was, like, cursed from birth, but he's got good qualities about him, but he's gonna do some bad stuff later. So, like, you can already kind of get a feel of that they're pulling already from lore that already exists.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, they're probably gonna create original characters for this film.
I wouldn't doubt it.
However, it sounds like it's taking place within a certain time period in Azeroth's history.
Yes.
So that is interesting.
Yeah.
That interests me a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll give you guys some more updates on that once we know a little bit more about the plot and any other characters that have been revealed for that movie. But having said that, it's probably time to get into our first story.
Yeah, I would say so. So, again, the story is a little bit sensitive in nature, but we thought it was important to talk about all the same. So the story is that there were two 12-year-old girls who had another 12-year-old friend.
Yes.
Their idea was, okay, let's all have a sleepover together. Yeah, this is gonna be happy, fun, good time. And then they went out into the woods or a wooded area or something
with their friend.
And then they decided they wanted to kill her, basically in sacrifice to Slenderman.
And stabbed her 19 times.
19 times. There didn't seem to be any real reason for this. They apparently seemed like very normal 12-year-old girls. Now, the other girl who did get stabbed, she was so fortunate she's recovering. She apparently
Yes.
her parents are saying that they have a real fighter.
Thankfully, as of, I believe yesterday, her condition has been updated to stable, which is, of course, a good thing. They say it'll only be a few days before she's released from the hospital.
But apparently at least one of those stab wounds very narrowly missed an artery. Very, very fortunate that she got out as well as she did, because especially that the girls didn't just continue. They could have continued. They could have watched her die, but they left her to die, and then she somehow managed to crawl her way out, I guess up to a sidewalk, or
Yes.
against a street, where a biker then found her and called 911.
Thankfully, the paramedics got to her just in time to make sure to be able to stabilize her. But unfortunately, this story has a couple of interesting repercussions. First and foremost, I wanted to make mention that currently online there's a GoFundMe for the victim to try and generate funds to help with the medical care that she'll need, both physically and mentally.
Definitely a worthy GoFundMe. So that's GoFundMe.com/HeartsForHealing WI
for Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So if you're here in the chat, we're linking you to that right now. If you're going to be watching this on YouTube later, we'll have a link down in the description section below.
Now, all these things aside, you might want to think of this as a story where, it's just another senseless thing that happens in the news, why even cover it here? Well, the problem is, or rather the interesting thing about this topic, is the fact that this is based around the character of Slenderman, who was created initially from people on the internet, off of somethingawful.com.
Yeah, it was, to the best of my recollection, it was a whole bunch of people who were kind of saying, we don't have any good modern horror characters as of late, and so they all decided, why don't we create one ourselves? And of course, he's recently gotten a whole lot of popularity from the Slenderman PC game, but I think some of the original details were he's a character that you can only just barely see off to the side of your vision, and anytime you try to look for him, you can't see him, and that's really scary. And yeah, that concept is really scary to me.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about it, because basically you think about it, he is what he is. He's the invention of people on the internet, basically to be a modern-day boogeyman.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you think about it, based off the information that's available on the internet, he's only been around maybe almost 6 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 or 6 years.
6 years. So you put that into context with these girls, they were only 6 when Slenderman was created.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's around that time that you end up, hearing about stuff at school. Like, I remember being that young at school and hearing about all that stuff, like around here, the Donkey Lady, or and things like that. And that's when
What
those...
is Donkey Lady?
You've never heard of Donkey Lady?
Afraid not, no.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to teach you some stuff later.
Is this San Antonio local stuff?
It's, yeah, La Llorona. You never heard of...
Realize I grew up in
that's
Hicksville.
right. In Canyon Lake, okay.
I grew up in White as White.
Okay, the Chupacabra. You've heard of the Chupacabra. Of
course I've heard of the Chupacabra.
Okay, all right, fine, great. So we're kind of on the same page again. But point being, that's around the time that people start telling each other these scary stories. You hear about them on field trips or at lunch. But I don't know about you guys, but when I heard about this stuff, I never tried to bring the stuff up. Like, people would be like, oh yeah, let's have a seance, let's bust out the Ouija board, let's go hide out in the woods, let's go do stuff, but you never actually did it because you were kids.
Yeah, you say those things because you have fun scaring each other. But
Right.
apparently these girls were planning it for like 5
Months.
months. Like 5 months. Like that's so crazy.
See, that it's the kind of thing you hear about in, school shootings or things like that. Like, oh, this was premeditated. They were thinking about it for months. But usually you write that off to people that are older, college age or older, premeditated. They've got stuff to be angry about.
These girls aren't even teenagers
Not
yet.
even teenagers yet, but they will be charged as adults in the criminal case against them. Because, yeah,
they could get up to 65 years in prison.
that's attempted manslaughter.
Yeah.
Had she died, it would have been even higher. That's man one. That you could face life for that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we go back and forth here. What is the cause of this? What were they thinking? Things of that nature. And it's kind of hard to imagine, because at that age, really more so then than in any other age, your imagination is still very vivid.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the way I see it is that Slenderman somehow became so real to them that they felt the need to go ahead and try and do this. I guess they were thinking of this as, a ritual sacrifice
Well,
of
yeah,
some
because then
kind?
they were gonna go run off and go, I guess, try and find the Slender Man. Go be with the Slender Man. They I don't know, they thought he was so cool, they wanted to be like him.
Well, because as I'm understanding, they reported that they were doing this in order to become proxies of the Slender Man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking about it, it's kind of that whole thing, you can't trust everything you read on the internet, especially when it's a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard to tell.
That was clearly made up by a whole bunch of people. Like, you can trace their description through forum posts. Like, it's not just, oh, it came up in legend and this is the first guy who mentioned it. No, you can watch these people in the past creating it. Like, what do you think he should be like? What do you think he should look like? What do you think he should do? Oh yeah, that would be really cool and creepy. It's if the girls read far enough, like, I don't know how you miss the fact that it's not real. I mean, clearly you would think just by the story of the Slender Man alone, and like, oh, that's a scary story. Well, that's not good enough. Apparently you have to tell them, no, here's all the guys who created it, talking about how they created it.
Right.
And even then, I guess that wasn't good enough. So do you say that these girls are crazy, or do you say that those girls are just girls who didn't know the difference between real life and fantasy?
I don't know. Like, we don't know at current what their mental state was, what made them want to go ahead and do this, whether or not maybe there was some outside force goading them on, like somebody online saying, hey, yeah, totally do this, and maybe they were, kidding around. But the creation of Slenderman goes back to one user there on the Something Awful forums, and I won't mention his name just for his own sake, but he's made a public statement saying that he was very saddened to hear about this, and he said he won't give any further interviews, just enough to say, I'm sorry that this happened. And, you know, public media is going after this guy like, oh, it's his fault, he created it. And I'm like, no, that's not his fault.
That would be like, killing somebody in the name of a xenomorph and then trying to blame it on
Blizzard?
Blizzard?
Oh, I was thinking like StarCraft.
No, xenomorph.
Oh, so
the
you're talking about Alien. Oh, and then blaming it on Ridley Scott. Yeah, that would be stupid.
Yeah,
there wouldn't
that's
be
ludicrous.
A point.
It's this. I'm equating it to about the same thing.
Yeah, because it's not so much about the person doing it being influenced by the initial intellectual property. Yeah, some people just kind of have a couple of screws missing. Like, you think back to the Aurora shooting.
Yeah. People
weren't blaming WB, even though it feels like they had to take the brunt of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, it's our fault we put out a movie that had violence in it because, you know, heaven forbid we actually put out something that was based off stuff that had violence in it in a comic book. Those two things are separate. The Dark Knight Rises is not the same thing as the guy who had some problems and did a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah.
Those are two completely separate things. So I don't think it's fair to say that Slenderman was so influential, so scary that these girls like had no choice but to do this, or at least that's the way they were thinking.
No, it's either that the girls already had something wrong with them, or it's that they were just that. They were girls and they were easily influenced by whatever was around them, which really would kind of suggest to me, like, by the age of 12, you kind of know the difference between reality and not reality, usually.
Well, I forget who I brought this up with, and this was a while back, but it's this idea that fandom has changed so much just because of the basic idea of the internet. Because you think back to fans 20, 30 years ago, they were very spread out, they couldn't communicate very well, you only saw them at conventions where they would come out of their basement, so to speak, talk to each other, and then go back. But now with the internet, you have a chance to connect with all these other people who kind of think like you are, or are at least very easily influenced, and then you can kind of get all the bad eggs together in one internet basket.
At the same time, though, here's two girls who didn't even need the internet, and they corroborated with one another, you know? Now, another thing that I'm concerned about, and I think maybe this will be one of my last questions in regards to all of this, is this girl who was stabbed, the victim, you know?
Yes.
How is she ever gonna trust friends ever again? How can she ever trust anybody
that's part of the reason for the GoFundMe, is that most of it is going to go to psychological counseling.
Yeah, because, like, she trusted these people. They were her friends. They were spending the night together. That's so heartbreaking just in...
Just the basic idea of what happened.
Like, yeah, physical wounds are gonna hurt, and yeah, she's recovering, and thank God she's recovering just fine, but realizing that the people you thought were your friends very clearly, violently were not your friends? How painful is that? That's way worse in personal opinion, because that's gonna carry with her for the rest of her life.
In relation to that, I hope this doesn't happen, but given the world that we live in, I can't see it not happening, is the idea of some jerk down the road who's going to come up to this poor girl with a Slenderman mask on, or just a whiteout mask on, just to mess with her. Like, that, I would hate to see that happen later on down the road, because she didn't deserve this.
No.
There was no reason for this, and yet this is the unfortunate thing that has happened, and thankfully, you know, things are being done to help her punish the ones that perpetrated this, but at the same time, we're still back to that argument, oh, some popular piece of media that was created by the nerds over there, they're responsible. No, let's treat it as two separate things. Mm-hmm. There's the intellectual property and the people that misinterpret the intellectual property.
Right.
I think that's the important thing to take away from this.
I'd agree, yeah. So I think we better wrap that story up, but again, I do want to reiterate that there is, in fact, that GoFundMe page GoFundMe.com/HeartsForHealingWI. That I think is the most important thing to take away from this story, that there is recovery to be done and that you can help in the recovery of this girl. So, let's go ahead and move on to something a little easier to swallow. I really hate that I don't have a good enough transition to get out of that, so I have
That's
to
fine.
apologize for that. I have no idea which one of these pictures is the correct picture, but
I'm guessing it's that one.
I actually don't think so, because that's E3, and we're
Oh, so
saving
it's not that one.
But we are going to be talking a little bit about Star Wars.
Yes, Star Wars. Okay, so a lot of Episode 7 news coming out here, and a little bit more besides that. So I'll start with the besides that news. So we've gotten confirmation that 2 of the spin-off movies for the Star Wars universe, as Disney and Lucasfilm have said before, they're going to make more movies than just the core new trilogy that they're coming out with.
Mm-hmm.
That they'll have several movies that'll span different parts of the universe. And the first director, I don't know that we mentioned this yet, but I guess I'll reiterate it or say it for the first time. Godzilla director Gareth Edwards will direct the first one, and we have a release date on that, actually. December 16th, 2016, a year after Episode 7 comes out.
Okay, so there's going to be steady stuff
they're just going to keep pumping it out now, one thing after another. The way they wanted to do it, they said, is every other year is every other movie, so core movie, spin-off movie, core movie, spin-off movie, like that sequentially, year after year after year, to keep it fresh and out there in the public. That way Star Wars never leaves the ether. Not like I think it would, but that was the first thing to be announced.
Mm-hmm.
And then just yesterday, Josh Trank, who directed Chronicle and is currently directing, or getting ready to direct, the Fantastic Four reboot, will be directing the second in this series of offshoot movies. With both of these movies, there isn't any confirmation one way or the other what the focus is going to be on, what characters, just the fact that they are the ones at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
So it would seem both of them have very interesting vision that they're going to bring into these projects.
All I know is that second spin-off movie has some woman who once said on late night, or no, just on Conan O'Brien's show, that she played a whole lot of Final Fantasy VIII. That's all I know about that one.
That's for Episode 7. Going back to the Episode 7 news, Lupita, I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing her last name. Nyong'o, I think. Who people would know from 12 Years a Slave, where she won her Best Supporting Actress Oscar this past year, has been added to the cast of Episode 7.
She's the one who played a whole bunch of Final Fantasy VIII. That's all I know about her. I've never seen her in anything else, but she's fine. She can stay.
She can stay because she played Final Fantasy VIII.
We've got something in common.
Okay. And as well, Gwendolyn Christie, who's currently on Game of Thrones as Brienne of Tarth, has also been added to the cast. Again, this is another case of we've got all these names announced, the new names, of course, and we still have no idea who's playing who.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say one way or the other who they're playing. I don't know what they're pulling from anymore. These are original
Mark Hamill
scripts.
is Luke Skywalker.
At least we know that. At least we know that. In addition to this, we have several set photos coming in one way or the other.
I was saving this because actually there's a pretty large number of people who have been trying to stay away from set photos. Very large number of people who wanted to stay away from set photos. I specifically remember Harry Partridge was screaming about it over Twitter. That you remember when movies used to, you never used to see anything about the movie until you got into the theater. Why can't it be like that anymore? Why do I've already been trying to avoid everything, and now they're just trying to leak stuff at me. So for that reason, I'm only showing one photo, and if you want to see more photos, then by all means. But I'm warning you right now, I'm pulling up.
Well, I don't think this is anything spoilerish.
I would not think so. I mean, I would assume that you would guess that the Millennium Falcon would be in Star Wars Episode 7.
Because, Harrison Ford's back. Why would the Millennium Falcon not be there?
So there's the construction of it, and
full size.
It's close enough to full size. It's not finished.
I'm pretty sure that's full size.
It's not nearly finished, clearly.
Well, yeah, they're still building it.
But this among other things, among creatures, and among
There's an X-wing being built in the background.
yeah,
Probably Luke's.
I'm saying creatures and robotics and people in costumes walking around actual physical sets. We at least know from these photos, even if you don't see anything else, I think it's good to know that they're using actual sets, physical props, physical backdrops, and physical things to interact with. I think that's really, really important.
Well, in specific,
that
one
it's
of
not
these...
a friggin' CG Millennium Falcon.
No, I mean, they'll probably will be at some point in space, but the fact that they're going to the lengths to build a full-sized or near full-sized Millennium Falcon speaks volumes about where J.J. Abrams is coming from in approaching these new movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing, because I think we had enough CG overload with the prequel trilogy that people want something more refreshing, like, you know what? Guys in suits. You know what? Practical sets.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? The Millennium Falcon, it's there. When you see them walking up, they're walking up. They're walking onto it. And kind of funny enough, J.J. Abrams responded kind of tongue-in-cheek to people complaining about, or not complaining, but, you know, being surprised, the Millennium Falcon, it's right there, it's right there. So he tweets this photo just yesterday, a little note from his stationery reading, "I wish people would stop leaking photos from Episode 7 and making ridiculous claims that the Millennium Falcon is in the movie." Now, of course, he says this on this note, which happens to be blatantly on the holochess table that's there on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, so it's a little hard to tell whether he's actually saying, hey guys, stop leaking photos, or if he's being like, no, I'm just playing. No, I think this is cool too. You guys need to see this.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think at least seeing the Millennium Falcon is something that will give people hope. Not quite a new hope. But, you know, I'm just getting hit all the time tonight. But it's nice to see that he's aware of what's going on. Now, I'll say this much. From the photos that have been released, you can't tell anything one way or the other about its bearing on the plot.
yeah, I can't tell what's happening when I look at these photos. All I know is I saw a new creature.
Yeah,
That
I saw
is
a new
the only
creature,
thing that
and
I
I saw
can
guys
tell.
in robes. That tells you nothing in the grand scheme of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I will say, however, that from the looks of things, it does seem, to me at least, that they're pulling from the larger, expanded universe in terms of locations and things of that nature. Some of the locales looking very familiar to what you might see in the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, and things of that nature. I think that's nice that they're expanding things out from just, say, one city here that you know very well to other parts of a planet that you're used to seeing in the Star Wars universe. Really, I don't know what else we can expect in the coming days. Really, what I would hope to see is, can we get some confirmation on who these people are playing at least? One way or the other, because it's not... It's not inherently...
I would like to know what their relation to our older cast of characters
Because
is.
I look at it this way. This is a new story, right? We've basically
But
thrown out...
episode 7 is supposed to focus on our old cast so that we can kind of say
Ease in.
goodbye to them a little bit while easing into the new group of people that it's going to kind of have the torch passed
Well,
to.
because I look at it this way. This is essentially a new story, right? Unless the people in this cast have last names of Solo or Skywalker, it's not really spoilerish. Or if they have Darth in front of their name. Otherwise, they're new characters we've never heard of. That's not a spoiler, I don't think, because we have no relation... We have no point of reference to those names yet.
Right.
So I don't think that's too much to ask for. It's just something to feed off. You know, and from there, people can speculate however they want. You know, whether it's, oh, well, that name kind of sounds like this name in the expanded universe, or this name kind of sounds like that. You know, kind of see where they're going with it. Aside from that, I don't know what else we can see. I did like that there was... Well, I don't know if I could say that. I will say, yes, there were other photos that show practical effects, kind of the way they did it back in 77.
So you're saying models?
Well, yeah, models there
Okay.
on set. And there are other astromech droids. That's not a spoiler. That the universe has other astromech droids. And there's a lot of ground to cover.
It's just good to know that they're physically there. I think that's all I'm taking from it, is that, oh, thank God. Practical sets, practical props.
And then, actually, you pulled up earlier a picture, I guess it's a recent picture of Mark Hamill.
This week he went to Walt Disney World, because this week was the Star Wars days at Disney World, which is, sadly, it was 3 weeks before we're going to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, that's kind of a unfortunate
but
thing.
Mark Hamill was wielding lightsabers with a Jedi-robed Mickey Mouse, and that was kind of cool to see. Admittedly, he kind of looked like the goofy dad who thought that he knew how to hold a lightsaber.
Well, he better know how to hold a lightsaber.
I'm just saying he kind of looked like, yep, I'm on vacation. Look at me, I'm holding a lightsaber. Like, he just looked like generic dad number 83 at Disney World that day.
He's not Jedi Dad number 83. He's Luke friggin' Skywalker. He knows how to hold a lightsaber.
I'm just saying it didn't really look like he...
Look, he was probably taking it easy on Mickey. That's basically what it comes down to.
He was just posing with Mickey. He wasn't fighting Mickey.
Join the mouse side. Jeez. Is that gonna keep happening?
Well, look, okay, so Mark Hamill's got, like, this facial hair thing going on.
Yes, that's what I wanted to get to, is, like, he's kind of got that, I guess it's episode 2 level Ewan McGregor scruff on his face, and I like that. Which is to say that they're making this parallel, well, maybe he's that sage character advising the younger
Do we
new
know
Jedi.
that that's what his facial hair is supposed to be in the movie, though?
If they're already filming now, there's a fair chance that whatever he's got on his head, hair-wise, is what they want.
All right, if you say so.
Because you think about other things like characters filming for the next Hunger Games movie right now. Months before that, they already started combing their hair, or rather, cutting their hair the way their character is supposed to have it. You get this stuff prepped well in advance. You think about Tom Cruise when he was filming Castaway. He lost all that weight well in advance before filming started, and you could already kind of see it. He was already having to grow his hair out. That wasn't a wig. That was Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
He was on that. So I think it's fair to say that Luke Skywalker will have some scruff.
That's true.
Now I'm wondering though, are they all gonna have old scruff? Like, is Han Solo gonna have some old scruff?
I don't know how I would feel about that.
Like, because you wouldn't think of
I
Luke
would
with
imagine
any sort of
5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
5 o'clock shadow. That's about it.
About it. And then I don't know really, because we're having to think about this now.
You said Tom Cruise earlier when you.
Oh, I meant Hanks. I meant Hanks. My bad. 2 different Toms. Point being, I'm having a hard time trying to visualize it before they show us a trailer or set photos, how they're going to look older them. Because I've never had to imagine it before. You know, because in your mind, they're always the way you last saw them, at the end of episode 6. They're kind of...
I don't know. I can picture Harrison Ford from Cowboys and Aliens. And that... I think he's going to look a little Cowboys and Aliens, if you ask me.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What, is old Indiana Jones not close enough for you?
Well, it's probably a little closer. I just hope he doesn't look so awkward in old costume,
I don't think they're going to put him in his old costume.
Well, I imagine he's going to wear something kind of close to it.
Close, but it's got to look good on this old man, and I don't think his old costume is going to look good on him.
Well, I at least can say I trust Abrams, especially after these photos, and especially after this casting. People are just overjoyed over this casting. Like, very, almost scary overjoyed. And I'm saying I'm more happy about the set photos, and I want some trailer action once we actually get there. I know it's going to be a while, but I want a little bit more information. Not too much, though. I don't want to be spoiled yet. I just want a little bit more, and then be like, okay, I'm good.
All right.
I can walk away from the table.
Speaking of walking away from the table, we will walk away from this hollow chest table, and we will instead go and not do that really bad transition. Okay, We
And
will
then you get after me
instead.
for transitions.
We will instead talk about E3.
E3.
Yay!
So next week is E3, and we've got a little bit of information to give you guys as to what's going to happen next week.
Just a little bit anyway. To kind of play catch up with this past year's E3 announcements. The three major companies, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, they made a lot of promises this past year. Hi, Kat. And for the most part, Nintendo and Sony fairly well kept up with their promises. Microsoft hasn't especially lied. It's just that most of their things that they promised haven't been fulfilled since previous E3.
Right.
So I don't know if that tells you anything, if that tells you who was really winning in the long run of E3 this past year. I totally closed a tab that I did not want to close, but we've got a list of all kinds of information as to, or really there's kind of a nice big old playlist of things that, like Twitch of course is going to be streaming a whole bunch of E3 footage, and I will tell you about that as soon as I can.
Another interesting thing that we found out about was that for a very limited time they were allowing at some theaters, maybe one close to you, the ability to watch Sony's E3 conference.
And that's on Monday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time.
Which would be 8 Central, right?
Yeah. So there is a place in San Antonio that was doing that PlayStation E3 experience, but the tickets were already given away. The tickets are all free, but
it's
they're
pretty
all
much
gone.
first come, first served.
Yeah, and for the most part, you can kind of expect that those are all gone. But of course, you don't want to leave your house anyway, I'm sure. So you're just gonna see
it's kind
all
of
of
the same. It's kind of the same thing as San Diego Comic-Con. If you can't go, you just go over to a friend's house and watch people live stream, or live tweet, I should say, or live blog.
Well, no, you're gonna
panels.
see the stream from the internet.
Well, yeah.
Through Sony, like.
But either way, you don't want to leave your house.
Yeah.
Is basically what I'm saying.
Of course, we know for a fact that on Monday, Xbox is gonna have their media briefing. Bethesda's got some unannounced title that they're gonna be announcing there that day. Of course, again, PlayStation is doing their E3 press conference that night, as we mentioned before. On Tuesday morning, Nintendo's got their digital event. Deep Silver's got a couple of unannounced titles, apparently. New Dragon Age game coming out.
Inquisition.
New Call of Duty's coming out. Advanced Warfare. Ooh. Microsoft Studios got a couple of unannounced things. Nintendo's going to be announcing an unannounced title. Of course, there's going to be heavy coverage of Super Smash Brothers.
The Order 1866. That looked interesting to me, the little bit of information that's come out about that.
Well, that's the shooter that's supposed to take place in the 1800s, isn't it?
Yeah, that it's really stylized, almost steampunkish.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really big into steampunk, but that looked pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it. I'm okay with it.
Then Wednesday, what do we got? Alienware, Sunset Overdrive, that really stylized looking shooter.
Oh yeah, we'd heard about it last year, right? And
yeah, we saw the trailer for it, or the teaser, I should say. Guy running all over the city using weird weapons. Yeah, kind of parkouring all over the city. We found out about that, man, about the same time we found out about Titanfall, didn't we? Initially last year?
Did they get announced at the same time?
If I'm not mistaken.
All I know is that Square Enix apparently has an unannounced title, of course. Funny, I don't hear anything from Square Enix on this list about their announced titles that we're all waiting for, which would be Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15. Like, part of me is wondering, hey, did you rename Final Fantasy 15 again, and then you want to call that your unannounced title? Of course.
Really, it's probably just going to expand upon what we mentioned at the top of the show about the new battle mode and the Batmobile and maybe a couple of characters. I don't imagine it being too mind-blowing, but, kind of the basic, yeah, okay, I figured I'd hear that.
More unannounced titles from Nintendo. Okay, so on Thursday, there's this Tetris thing going on, right? We're talking...
What are they calling it? Like Ultimate?
Tetris Ultimate.
Yeah, Tetris Ultimate.
Like, this is supposed to be the epitome of Tetris. Like, I don't really know how, because it's gonna be 4-player battle, and there's 6 different game modes, and there's marathons, and there's battles, and power-up battles, and all kinds of other things I don't necessarily recognize. Like, can this really be mind-blowing Tetris?
I don't know, because really when it comes down to it, for me, I'm just a regular Tetris junkie. Like, I don't know how many hours I've logged of my life, how many years of my life I've logged into just my regular Game Boy Color and just going at it with Tetris. Just there on long trips, just making walls and knocking them down, timing it just right. Oh, there's the long block, and then they're gone. Like, that's my favorite puzzle game is Tetris, by far.
Just by playing the puzzle game itself is good enough for me. I suppose timed battles are important to somebody.
I like what one of the comments here in the chat brought up. That's the edition I'm waiting for. Tetris Unlimited. Nobody judges me edition.
It's Ultimate.
Ultimate. Whichever. It's Tetris. Either way, I'm happy.
Okay. More unannounced Nintendo stuff. More unannounced Square Enix stuff.
And then we've got this new one that we just heard about today, the Borderlands, the pre-sequel.
So, prequel? Or is it something that sits between Borderlands 1 and 2?
It's kind of more like that.
Oh, okay. New stuff from Ubisoft.
Tecmo Koei.
New stuff from Tecmo Koei, so I am imagining that will be another Muso game. Hi, Cat.
I like Muso games.
I like Muso games, too. Apparently there's going to be a bigger showcase of Disney Infinity 2.0 Marvel superheroes.
Now, we've kind of gotten a little bit of information on that, specifically the characters of the Avengers. They've already put out small videos for, I believe, Black Widow, Captain America, and I think Iron Man. So, really, you knew the Avengers were going to be the first ones out, because they're kind of the flagship ones. What I'm waiting for are kind of the other superheroes. Spider-Man, it'd be nice to see Moon Knight in there. The unfortunate thing that eventually Deadpool will show up in that game. Or would Deadpool show up in that game? I'm wondering about that. Would Disney do that? Because Disney should be aware of what Deadpool means to the internet.
Well, I really don't know. I don't know. A lot of people really like Deadpool. I just think he's kind of become the anime convention troll. And
well, if they manage to get him into Ultimate Spider-Man and kind of downplay how much of a
I feel like for the most part people have kind of forgotten, oh, Deadpool is this crazy because he's in an intense amount of pain constantly and it never goes away.
Yeah.
Have we forgotten that? Deadpool is a very sad character.
Well, yeah, but if they manage to get him into Ultimate Spider-Man the way they did, they'll probably manage to keep him at about that level for this Disney Infinity game.
There's gonna be more information on Sonic Boom, and I can't quite tell if that's for the game or if it's for the cartoon series or for both. I would imagine more for the game.
More for the game, because this is E3. I imagine if they were going to do anything on the cartoon, they'd probably wait until, San Diego Comic-Con.
At the same time, though, I think it would be foolish to not mention both of them together, because they're kind of a joint venture, a joint story.
They feed one into another. I get that. I just don't see what the necessity for the cartoon at the game conference.
Microsoft isn't exactly, for example, Microsoft isn't exactly new to, hey, we're showing off our game equipment. Look at all the TV you can watch. Like, that's not really new to E3, showing off.
Now, I'm thinking about it, looking at this list, there's nobody debuting any sort of new console this year.
Well, no, because we just got through with a
I'm thinking about it.
What are you saying?
I'm saying, like, what was it, a couple of days ago we heard the Steam Machine got delayed, too?
Yeah, I'm just saying...
They could have made a mark here had they had it ready, and I'm disappointed that we're not going to see anything from that.
Really, E3 is not the best place for indie people to go. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But really, if you want to talk smaller time development and closer to indie developers, you probably take that to a PAX. You don't necessarily take that to E3.
Yeah, but all the same, with all the coverage it was getting on specifically that controller and what that could potentially do, I would have wanted to see that sooner than later.
Now, granted, this list is just for things that Twitch is streaming. That's not to say that they don't have some sort of a presence there. That's completely different. So this does not tell us everything that is going to show up at E3. Otherwise, why would we have an E3? We would already know. So...
But the thing you can count on is that if you don't like anything that Nintendo puts out, Luigi's going to give you that eye. And you don't want to tick off Luigi. Not now when he's on a rampage.
So, I think that's a pretty decent glimpse into at least what we know for certain is going to be talked about at E3. A whole bunch of different companies have also said, yes, we're going to have presence here. But of course we're gonna learn more. Like, there's gonna be nothing but breaking news over E3 over this next
more
week.
than likely that'll probably be a chunk of news next week.
Oh yeah, more than likely. I can 100% forecast says there will be E3 news next week.
I mean, on here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's
fine.
Kind of no duh to me. I think that for now is about all we can really discuss. If you're here with us live on Twitch, stick around with us so that we can do our half an hour of Q&A with you. If you are my patron, one of my Patreon subscribers, as soon as this is over, I'm going to start prepping it to hit YouTube, and then you guys will be watching it first a whole day before anybody else on YouTube gets to rewatch it. So that's going to be awesome. Be looking forward to that, you guys.
And in the meantime, you can always follow us on Twitter. In the meantime, I'm Josh Knight First.
I'm Mars Girl. In the meantime.
Yes. How could you at a time like this?
In the meantime.
But in the meantime, that's been this week's Beyond the Black Rims, and we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.